Hey everyone, Dr. Greg here. Welcome back. Great to be with you. Thanks for joining me for another video. Absolutely fantastic to have you here today because we're going to talk about creativity. Now, you might hear creativity, fine, I'm not into the arts, I'm not into music or anything like that. I'm in business, or I might be in education, or I might be an athlete. And those are areas where, believe it or not, creativity is just as important as anywhere else. In fact, I believe that creativity is available to everyone in every single field, whether it's in basketball, a new way to get the ball in the basket, whether it's in music, obviously creating a new song, a new riff. In business, it might be a new solution to an old problem. It might be, if we're in education, a new way to teach a concept. This is a universal human ability, if you will, and high performers in all different areas leverage creativity to bring new things into the world. And that is, I think, now more important than ever, especially in an era of artificial intelligence when the rote tasks are being automated. We as humans can access our creativity to bring new ideas into the world, new solutions to old problems, new music, new writing, new concepts, new ideas. And so that's what I'm hoping that we can speak about a little bit today. And in order to do that, as always, I really want to make sure that we are grounding ourselves in research, in science, so that you know that these ideas are real. They're based on our physiology. They're based on our psychology. So once again, let's dive into the research lab and imagine that you come down to my lab and we're going to collaboratively explore the concept of slowing down in order to speed up, because just like it is with focus and learning and strategic thinking, creativity depends upon this as well in order for it to work. So let's wire up your brain. We'll measure your brainwave states, and based upon what you're doing over the course of a day, the week, the month, the year, we can measure various different patterns of brainwave states for you. And when you're sleeping, you're in delta brainwave states. When you are in creativity, you're in a theta brainwave state. This is a very, very calm state. It's very, very relaxed. It's ideating. Your mind is wandering. It's a very, very chill state. Very little stress. Lots of confidence. A really great mood. And then in the context of where all of this sits, this is a little bit slower, a little bit even more relaxed than that alpha brainwave state that we've spoken about previously, which is where we learn, we plan, we reflect, we strategize. It's even less active than that, where you might be doing strategic thinking or reflection or learning. The mind is deliberately tasked with something. In creativity, the mind is often wandering. It's allowing a new idea to pop into your head. This is very different, and in fact, it is blocked by a beta brainwave state, which is when you are in hustle, focus, execute, get stuff done mode. Fascinatingly, though, when we're in a flow state, when we're in gamma brainwave states, this is when we're in flow, you're in that peak performance state, everything is coming together. Often creativity will creep in here too, but that's pretty advanced. We'll deal with that in another session. Today, what I want to do is just to really dig deep and dive into this concept of theta brainwave states. Now, in business, in our work, this is often thought of as brainstorming and coming up with new ideas, new insights, new products, new approaches, new plans, new ways of getting things done. It might be an entirely revolutionary approach to doing something. And while I might say revolutionary, and you might think like that's a very, very big thing, in fact, it can be micro as well. This could be a new way to teach a specific type of mathematics. This could be a new process that you use to get certain things done. Creativity doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be like Michelangelo level, creativity. These are little tiny things that we can install into our days to make our world better, to bring a new approach into the world. I first began to explore the concept of creativity because I heard Steve Wozniak speak. We were together at a conference a number of years ago. He spoke before I did, and he spoke about creativity. So in the green room, after his presentation, before mine, I had a few minutes alone with Wozniak, who co-founded Apple Computer with Steve Jobs, and he was the engineer that created the first Mac computer. And so obviously, whether you're a Mac or PC, I don't care. The point is, like, he's a really creative individual who is one of the most successful engineers in human history. I loved my time with him. He was so fun, so interesting. And when he spoke about creativity in his presentation, I was super fascinated. I loved it. And then when we had a few moments together, I asked him, Steve, how do you practice creativity? Like, what are you doing to be creative? And he paused, he kind of chilled for a little bit, and he said, you know what? Here's what I do. I like to tell jokes in different languages. I was like, that's completely not helpful at all. I don't understand what you're talking about. And I didn't get it. I was like, okay, cool. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Great to meet you. And, I went off and did my thing, my presentation. Meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, like, what is that thing? What is that creativity thing? How do we actually access that? What's going on here? And in writing Rest, Refocus, Recharge, my book, there's an entire chapter on creativity. And that's when I really began to explore this. And what I discovered is that when we are in a creative state, we actually enter into a condition where different parts of the brain become active at the same time and then are joined together through white matter tracts to create these eureka moments, these insights, if you will, these moments where all of a sudden you see something in a different way. And the reason why that is so fascinating is that when we consider what Steve Wozniak told me, he said, I like to tell jokes, humor, in different languages, language. Two different regions of the brain joining together to create something new, a joke in a new language, right? So he was literally practicing this, even though I'm sure he didn't realize that, like, the different brain regions, maybe he did, different brain regions were working together. As we explore this even further, what we then discover, and this is these are a bunch of MRI scans of someone, this right below me is an MRI scan of someone who is in a creative state. And it's really interesting. Actually, there's two different regions of the brain that are activated here at the same time, which is why we, funny enough, often say, I put two and two together. Like, isn't it interesting how our language reflects our physiology? Super fascinating. Other research was done that localized creativity to the anterior cingulate cortex, this area of the brain that I've circled here, which is behind your forehead, but it's really, really deep. It's right next to the emotional center of the brain. And it's a powerful area that enables us to have this type of thinking, this insight, these creative moments. So this is what I want us to work on. And I'm not saying that you're going to deliberately practice activating your anterior cingulate cortex, but there are certain tactics that you can use to enhance your ability to be creative. And guess what? That is going to happen in your anterior cingulate cortex, plus whatever other region of the brain you're using to bring that information together to create these new thoughts, these new solutions to old problems. And again, I believe this is one of the most important things that we can do in our world today, because it's just so absolutely critical that we make the world a better place. All right, so let's dig into this and figure out how can we actually build this capacity and enable us to bring more creativity into our lives. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey right now. And a while ago, I had the incredible opportunity to go out to the mountains, as I do. I really do love the mountains. They're amazing. And my friend took me ice climbing. And basically what this is you find a frozen waterfall, you put on crampons, which are little blades that go on your boots, and you pick up ice axes and you try to climb the ice. And it's a pretty incredible sport. With great guides, it can be done safely, and I've done it a number of times, and I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever done. Now, on one of these expeditions, these little fun explorations that we've done, we tried to climb up through a hole in the ice, and sort of like a tube of ice that went up about 30 or 40 feet. So you're climbing inside this space, and you're in a very confined space. It's super claustrophobic. There is rock as well, so you're doing sort of mixed ice and rock climbing. And on this case, as we were going up, I ended up getting stuck. And it's problematic on a ton of different levels. But here is the video of that situation. I'll sort of talk you through what's going on here. So I managed to pull out my ice axe, and you can sort of say, hey man, I'm stuck. And you look up, that's where I'm trying to go to. You can see the ice and the rock. And that's where I just came from, down there. And the problem was I didn't have enough room, and I couldn't figure out how to get around that block of ice. I kept on getting stuck. And because I had a backpack on and a bunch of equipment and gear, it was just an incredibly difficult scenario in order for me to be in. So obviously it became problematic. I'm a little bit worried here. I could go down, I guess, but that wasn't part of the equation. And I was super stressed. And so and obviously, like, you're claustrophobic, and it's difficult and all those sorts of things. So as we began to find out, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And you can just see that I am deliberately calming down there. And I'm started to eventually be able to smile. And at the end, I kind of made a joke and I smiled. And what happened at that point when I put my camera away is I simply took a bunch of deep breaths, calmed myself right down. And when I was tense and stressed and nervous and anxious and stuck, I couldn't see any way out of it. Once I was calm, once I relaxed, once I got myself back into a better mood through breathing, through calming myself down, and my guide said, hey, Greg, I think you could put your feet here. And it's like, okay, cool. So I was able to put my ice axes into a certain place, move my hips in a different direction, sneak myself right forwards, get my backpack underneath that block of ice, and was able to get myself up and out of the situation. Essentially, what I had to do was to calm myself down deeply in an environment that was incredibly difficult to do that. This is the perfect analogy for what is going on right now in our world. The world is an unwell place at the moment. There are significant challenges, economic, sociocultural, geopolitical. There are many different challenges that we are faced with. In order for us to navigate these turbulent times, these challenging moments, it is critical that we give ourselves permission to and practice the ability to let go of tension and calm ourselves down such that we can enter into a theta brainwave state. Now, the way that we do this is called the creative ideation pathway. We're trying to build creativity, build the ability to ideate new solutions to old problems. How do we do that? We enter into a theta brainwave state. And in this case, we are seeking to be calm. We need to calm the brain. And this is a cool graphic that I've got here, an MRI scan of the brain. And what happens when we take these deep breaths that have long, slow exhales is that we calm the stress region of the brain. The green region that I've highlighted there is the breathing center. The red is your stress center of the brain. In many different ways, they are linked together. When we take these long, slow exhales, that is sending signals into the stress region of the brain that everything's okay, everything's cool, you can calm down, you can relax, and bring a sense of calm to the situation. So when we need to be creative, when we need to be ideative, when we need to come up with new solutions to old problems, just remember, think to yourself that we need to be calm. The way to achieve that is through some form of breath work in the instant. The long, slow exhale, the birthday candle breath, right? The long, slow exhale is a great way to do that. A bit more advanced is box breathing. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold. We will explore that in great detail in another video. But all of these ideas that we're seeking to do here is just to bring calm to our lives. We're just seeking to practice calm as a superpower. Being the calm within the storm is a great way to think about it. You're the lighthouse guiding others to safe harbor, whether it's students, whether it's your clients, whether it's your coworkers, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. We're just being that lighthouse in the storm. How do we do that? We stay calm, cool, and collected under pressure. How do you do that? Breath work is a powerful tool to help you to release that tension. So practice the breath of calm. It will make a huge difference for you. A little bit more deliberate and intentional is using our physiology. And physiologically, a great way to enter into a more creative state, this theta brainwave state, where we can access creativity and innovation, is through physical rhythm. Walk, run, jog, swim, bike, paddle. This is a very cool video that I took on an expedition to climb Chimborazo volcano in Ecuador. And we were crossing a scree slope here. And you can see that we were just in a rhythmic, repetitive pattern. And it was so cool that as we did this for hours, moving slowly back and forth up the mountain, that my mind just began to wander. And I stared into the back of Sarah Thompson's head. She was with us on the expedition. She was a member of the team. She was working on some MRI research at the time. And we just couldn't figure out the physics of what she was trying to accomplish. And as I stared into the back of her head and we were walking for hours, I began to unravel some of the challenges that she was facing in her research, because I was her supervisor at the time, and was able to figure out what was going on. But it was only because I was in that rhythmic, repetitive pattern of movement that my mind settled enough such that my mind was wandering, put two and two together, came up with that new solution to old problems. And the research is quite clear that when we are doing rhythmic, repetitive movement, as my son Adam here is demonstrating on the beach many, many years ago, 10 years ago now, you can just see that beautiful pattern of water, the rhythmic, repetitive pattern of the water. Like, humans love to feel this way. This is walking, jogging, swimming, paddling, even flow yoga. And what we describe this as is rhythmic, repetitive movement, long, slow distance, walking in a rhythmical pattern such that your mind settles. This can take 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even 40 minutes in some cases. And what we refer to this as jokingly is LSD, long, slow distance. Now, you can access this using the drug, not recommended, but you can also access this using rhythmic, repetitive movement. It's so interesting that when we need to come up with new solutions to old problems, you've got a challenge to resolve, you need a new idea in your personal life and your professional life. Staring at your computer screen isn't the place to get this done. The way we get this done, the place that we can get this done, is when we're outside walking, or on your spin bike walking, or on the treadmill walking if you have to be at home, or in the gym. We're just getting rid of the technology. We're getting ourselves into a rhythmic, repetitive pattern, and that settles us down. By the way, this also works in water. That's why being near a waterfall is so powerful. Being in the shower first thing in the morning, rhythmic, repetitive pattern of water hitting your forehead, you relax, you calm down, and often that's a moment where that eureka insight will pop into your brain. So don't be afraid to take some LSD, long, slow distance, not the drug, if you have a problem that you want to solve. All right, final piece of the puzzle here is the space issue. And that really is interesting, because when we are in a place of solitude, for example, the Beatles creating Abbey Road Studios, which is a place where they could go to be creative in a safe location where they were isolated, no one else around, just them and their producer. And by the way, when I mean solitude, I mean you possibly by yourself. It could be you and your family. It could be you and your team, you and the people doing the work. I love being out on the paddleboard. That's me out on the paddleboard first thing in the morning as the sun comes up. It is where I go to come up with new solutions to a problem, because I cannot bring my technology with me. Tried that a couple times. I've got 2 phones on the bottom of Lake Ontario where they will stay. And now when I go out, I don't bring any technology with me. It's just rhythmic, repetitive movement in nature, such that I can settle my mind down and come up with new solutions to old problems. So we need to get alone. And by being alone and by being in solitude, I want that to be deliberate and intentional, because when you're deliberately and intentionally alone, that's totally good. That's when you can access creativity. Problems emerge in our society right now, and confusion emerges in our society right now when we're alone and it's not our choice. That's called loneliness. We don't want that. That's where, despite the fact that we are, more connected than we've ever been, we're somewhat more lonely than we've ever been, because that's, this is just not real connection. This is a superficial way of accomplishing that. So I want you to be in solitude so that you can be creative, but I also, in parallel, want you building great relationships in the real world such that you can not be lonely. I want you to be connected to humans that you care about, who love you, who support you, who encourage you, who challenge you. So practicing solitude, not loneliness, is the way forwards here in order to do this. And the way to do this, I want you to think about, is very simply this: non-time and no one. What does this mean? Non-time means that there's no real constraints on your time. You're not rushing. You're not on a deadline. You are simply taking some time to come up with new solutions to old problems. I almost said think, but it's a little bit less than thinking, if you will. It's almost like you let thinking go away and just allow your mind to wander around a certain topic that you're trying to address. And no one means that you're alone. You're alone. You're not being interrupted. It might be you and your team if you're doing brainstorming, but it could be just you and a journal, you and yourself thinking and practicing solitude, such that you can come up with those new solutions to old problems. This is what we just call practicing solitude. And the magic is when you pull all of this together, the mind is open, the mind is calm. We're in that ideative state, right? Remember the breath work where we're releasing tension to calm ourselves down. We're in this state where the body is in rhythm, rhythmic, repetitive movement, and you are alone. You're in that place of solitude. That's when the mind can start to wander. That's when the power of creativity can be accessed. I love this quote here. A busy mind will destroy your ability to do great things in this world. You need a free mind. And obviously the steps that I've shown you here are ways of doing that. But if I needed to summarize it all in one, I would say that calm is your superpower. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, we are just looking for that state where we are calm, actually mental, physical, or emotional. And of course, the way that we can do that, as I mentioned, calming the mind through breath work, calming the body through rhythmic, repetitive activity, and calming our emotions by getting into a place of solitude. So I hope that that's helpful, everyone. Just a little bit of a spark, a few ideas for you around building some creativity into your life. Obviously, you cannot spend all the time doing this unless you're a professional artist, in which case, fantastic. But for all of us who have to teach or have to run businesses, have to be entrepreneurial, have to be creative, have to solve problems, this might be something that we access hopefully on a daily basis. Maybe it's on a weekly basis, could be on a monthly basis. But we do need to build this into our lives because it is the new solutions to old problems, bringing new ideas into the world that is going to make the world a better place. And boy, do we ever need a lot of that right now. All right, if you wanted to explore this a little bit further, I did dig into this in a big way in my book, Rest, Refocus, Recharge. There's an entire chapter all about this concept. If you want more resources and want to access the other videos in this series, they are all here at drgregwells.performance. So I hope that that's helpful, everyone. If you have any questions, please let me know through my website. It's probably the best place to do that. Use the contact page. Hope this was helpful. Get out there, be creative, new solutions to old problems, and let's make the world a better place. All right, that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. All the best.